Every year the Tour de France finishes on the Champs-Élysées, and frankly, thank goodness for that. These days it's one of the few things you can actually rely on when the race sets off, that 22 days later, in some shape, size and state of health, it'll arrive in Paris. Everything else is subject to change without notice. The 2008 edition had incident, accident, scandal, the odd headbutt and uncertainty about the outcome until the penultimate stage, which was a relief really, because back at the start in Brest, all everyone was talking about was what the Tour this year was missing.
First off, there was no defending champion. Alberto Contador's new team had been declared unwelcome because of past problems with drugs. For the first time in history, there was no official recognition from cycling's world governing body either. The row over how to fight doping had turned the Tour into a renegade race. The prologue was missing too. The organisers had decided to ditch 4 decades of tradition and replace the opening time trial with a road stage. And that was just the first of a string of innovations on the most experimental Tour route we've seen for years. Brittany played host to the opening 3 days. In fact, it was the Tour de France meets the shipping forecast as the race kicked off in Finistère. Stage 1 was Brest to Plumelec, 197 windy kilometres with a vicious kick up towards the finish that the locals, perhaps not having travelled much, called the Breton Alpe d'Huez. Hervé Duclos-Lassalle never got there. Every year somebody has to be the Tour's first casualty. This year it was him. And he was almost followed out of the race by the first big name. Last year's King of the Mountains, Mauricio Soler, went down heavily on his wrist and was already chasing the rest of the field almost before the Tour had properly started. We're going to join the Stage 1 action with the whole field together, approaching the decisive climb towards the finish in Plumelec, Côte du Cadoudal.
We've got an attack going on the right.
Fabian Wegmann, the champion of Germany, and this is exactly what outfoxed Eric Zabel a couple of years ago, because there was a late attack came. It's not the champion of Germany. In fact, it's arrived from Agui Tubel.
This is arrived from Agui Tubel, who's made the move here, and it would be the sort of move by Romain Feylu, who has made a move on the climb, and I think he's gone too early, but it is indeed Feylu who's gone as he starts the climb here, and he's got a little gap over the field, and this is the moment of confusion. Who's going to take up the chase, because they don't want to waste their energy, and it's a good gamble by the Frenchman, but now comes Gerolsteiner.
Gerolsteiner have got themselves organised. This is the counter move now. Feylu really himself a little bit of a sprinter, I felt, was going just a bit too early there, but now we've got Gerolsteiner. This looks like Stefan Schumacher.
Well, this could be a good move from Stefan Schumacher. He once won the Amstel Gold Race in a move like this up the Kouwberg in the south of Holland. He's now made he's got an enormous gap. There'll have to be a quick reaction to close this down. This drag will split the field up for sure now as he continues to count. Now the field is starting to rip from behind.
Well, they're all over. You've got to convict yourself now just to keep going. You cannot pause at a moment like this. Eric Zabel is still pretty much up there. They're now starting to get the headwind into their faces, these riders, as they come up the last little bit of curlies, as they come up towards the top. Schumacher looking over his shoulder to see whether or not he's got the power still to go. The main field is still all over. There is Alejandro Valverde in the middle, the champion of Spain. He's looking for the gap. He wants to win this. Coming across there is Kim Kirchen. Kirchen has made the junction. Now he makes the move.
Kirchen has gone over the top, and I saw also Valverde and Philippe Gilbert in white as Kirchen tries to go clear now. And there's a move from a Lampre rider. Is it Cunego? No, it's not, right on his back wheel. I think Kim Kirchen's gone a little bit too soon here, Paul.
Well, I think that's Alessandro Balán there in second place, but look, in fact, you can see Kirchen is opening up the gap here. Schumacher's gone backwards. There is Cadel Evans in about 4th position. He's pretty happy just to be there. We're inside of 250 metres to go, and this is going to be a great move coming around the corner. 41, well, Kirchen.
This was what was planned, Kim Kirchen. Alan Piper said he hoped it, but that Valverde, I think, has taken a flyer from the line. Alexander Valverde is heading home. Well, his team said he would win. He seems to want the yellow jersey from day one, the hot favourite with Cadel Evans, and that is an incredible win for Alejandro Valverde. Philippe Gilbert, I think, will have got 2nd place on the line there. Paul, the power of that man.
Well, I think not only the power of Alejandro Valverde, but the way he remained calm and collected and watched the race unfold in front of him, and then all of a sudden he came out to take the big pay packet there this afternoon.
And it produced a winner who wouldn't have been in the top 6 of a prologue, but was aiming for the top place overall in the Tour, so it felt as though the race had got straight down to business. It also left Alejandro Valverde with an almost undefendable lead, 1 second over the first dozen riders behind him, including Kim Kirchen, the pre-race favourite Cadel Evans, Frank Schleck, And Britain's David Miller too, with another 30-odd riders behind them, lying just 7 seconds back. So, although Valverde had looked impressive in taking the yellow jersey, his chances of holding on to it for long look pretty slim. Great for the race, and seemingly fine by Valverde too.
Bueno, que sí, creo que coger el jersey amarillo es muy bueno para mí, para el equipo. Y bueno, lo hemos cogido, si luego se pierde no pasa nada, de momento lo hemos cogido, lo tenemos, he ganado una victoria de etapa y muy contento.
As it turned out, Alejandro Valverde kept the jersey comfortably on stage 2, or as comfortably as you can with a 1-second lead, while Torpedov took a strongman stage win in Saint-Brieuc. Stage 3 saw a couple of big names penalised for the sin of riding too far back in the bunch. Denis Menchov and Ricardo Rico lost 38 seconds when they got caught behind a crash, although bigger penalties for bigger sins were pending for Rico. It was a good stage for the host nation though. A French stage winner, Samuel Dumoulin, and a Frenchman in the race lead. Romain Fayou took the yellow jersey just in time to be guaranteed to lose it the following day. Stage 4 was the first time trial of the race, a 29-kilometre circuit starting and finishing in Cholet. The World Time Trial champion Fabian Cancellara was the favourite, but not the fastest.
Well, this is amazing. Cancellara will be desperately surprised at this ride by Stefan Schumacher. It is going to annihilate the time of the world champion, and I think might lead the way to the best ever victory of his life. As he comes up to the line, he's looking at the clock.
Best time at the moment by 33 seconds, and look at this man's face here as he looks at the line. He doesn't even sprint, he knows he has to keep the pressure going all of the time, and that is a phenomenal new best time by Stefan Schumacher.
As we look here at Valverde heading in for the second check.
I'll tell you what, Valverde has actually improved, Phil, over the second part of this course. He was a long way down to begin with, but he's now moved up to 18th place, but the time he's lost is a minute at this point.
He's moved up 12 places, though, as Cadel Evans comes in to the finish here. Cancellara is the second best time. That is what Evans is aiming at now. And remember, Cancellara is the world champion. Cadel Evans is back in this Tour de France, if he was ever out of it, because now he's got the second best time. That is a terrific result for Evans.
Well, Cadel Evans has done a phenomenal performance there. He was a long way down and he's actually improved at every individual time check, and that is a sign of a man who knows exactly how to ride an individual time trial.
Well, this is a super finish by Miller, but it's going to slot in probably in a second place finish here. Should be a good one for David. He'll have a high overall position tonight. He's ridden his best time trial for many years here, Miller, and he's taken it to the line. Second best time for David Miller. This is the interesting time. The arrival of the Green Points jersey leader here, Kim Kirken, and on many people's lips, a favourite to win the Tour de France too. His team have got great encouragement here for him, because they believe he could win the Tour de France.
Well, he's getting out of the saddle now and coming up to the line, and what a time to get our little technical problem. He stops the clock there. Phil, he's lost 18 seconds on Stefan Schumacher, and he's come across the line in second place, and he's telling Cadel Evans, watch out, mate, because I'm here to race this Tour.
Alejandro Valverde, what has he done between the 19-kilometre check and the finish?
Well, it's gone outside of the 37-minute time, and it's going to be closer, Phil, to 37 minutes and 20 seconds. Now, that will be a little bit of a shock to his system. He's got to get his mind back into this race.
Well, the mountains are just around the corner now. 23rd position, 37 minutes and 18 seconds for Alejandro Valverde. And that's a big gain for Cadel Evans today.
As the yellow jersey, Romain Fayou had the honour of starting last. Wasn't far off finishing last, 169th out of 178 riders. The race lead passed to the stage winner, Stefan Schumacher. In fact, the new top 5 were the top 5 finishers in the time trial. Cadel Evans, the pre-race favourite, nicely positioned now in 4th, having beaten all his main rivals.
In my mind, for classification, really, this is really the first appointment for the GC favourites, I think. And like I said, so far so good. And let's see in Superbest, I think, will be the next real showing for the GC riders.
So 4 stages into the Tour and no sign of the world's fastest sprinter, which can only mean one thing: a cliff-hanging commercial break with Mark Cavendish on the other side.
Mark Cavendish is bursting out of the practice, had to make a run very early here. He's challenged by the sprinters. Look at the speed of Mark Cavendish here.
Mark Cavendish came into the Tour de France this year acknowledged as the fastest man in the world over the last 300 metres of a stage. problem for him in the first week had been the preceding 200 kilometres or so. For one reason or another, he hadn't been delivered to the front by Team Columbia and hadn't had the chance to test his legs in a bunch sprint. His next chance was stage 5, Cholet to Châteauroux, a stage won by Mario Cipollini to break his duck in the 1998 Tour if Mark was looking for omens. Well, early in the stage, Alejandro Valverde was brought down in a crash, but got back up and rejoined the main field easily enough, although not without his wounds. Out front, a three-man break was trying to survive to the finish, and it was touch and go as to whether the chasing bunch had timed the catch right.
These are the three leaders, and they're still leading inside of 2 kilometres to go. They are holding on, and I don't know how.
Well, they've blown our computer out of the water because they are still up there now at 1.9 kilometres to go. They're trying to bring Sebastian Chavanel through in the white jersey team of Francesia. Big George Hincapie back and driving the front now, because they're trying to keep the race so fast nobody can catch up with the leaders of the peloton. And this is what Mark Cavendish needs, a real shot at the finish, because he really is the fastest man over 200 metres.
Well, he is, but he's got to be in the right place. He's got to make sure that the doors are open in front of him, because you can be the fastest man in the world, but if you've got riders in front of you, there's nowhere to go through. Eric Zabel is not far away from the front end of the main field now. Nicolas Vaugondy has thought about this one. He is going for one last burst here, and he's looking to see whether he's going to spot the last kilometre. This could be an impressive turnout for these guys, because they may well just survive.
The final throws of a man who has been in the lead for 220 kilometres today, as somewhere the champion of France has found some power in those pistons we call legs, as he races now towards the finish. The other two, I think, will be swept up. They have really diced with it this time. 1 kilometre to go, and one man, the champion of France, is still away.
He's still away on the front of the main field. It was the man who wears the green jersey leading them out, and that is Kim Kirk, and the riders from the breakaway have swung over now. They don't want to create any accidents, as you can almost see and feel the pressure in the main field. They feel that they may well have lost this one, as they're looking to pull back 250 metres inside of the last kilometre. It's Quick-Step on the front end of the main field, but Vaugondy here could very well have created a massive surprise.
It is a long straight sprint here, but for Vaugondy it is a greyhound rush for the line. Don't look over your shoulder, because there's still a chance here for the champion of France. A desperate effort after leading for almost all of the 232 kilometres. Mark Cavendish is bursting out of the practice, had to make a run very early here. He's challenged by the sprinters. Look at the speed of Mark Cavendish here. As we get the shot, he's wiped out the champion. Mark Cavendish, the youngest British rider ever to get a stage win in the Tour de France.
Well, God forbid Mark Cavendish should win a simple sprint to open his Tour account. The catch was in doubt until the closing metres of the longest stage. For a few seconds, he seemed not to believe it himself. Then suddenly the world speeded up again, and he was in one of those finish line scrums he'd watched on telly growing up. Race officials clearing a path for him, and teammates appearing out of the crowd to celebrate with him. Then the podium music, the girls, the flowers, Bernardino, for goodness sake, and the winner's interview.
What was said at the hotel this morning? What was said before this stage? Because the way you rode as a team on this stage, it really looked like you targeted this one.
I woke up this morning and I said to the lads, I'm going to win today. I just feel it, you know. And it sounds arrogant, but I prefer to say it on the line of confidence, you know. We got such a strong team here, and we showed that. We've shown that the other days, and we had to come away with the stage sooner or later. And after the other day, I wasn't going to let them down.
You're a confident lad. The knockbacks, the setbacks, when it doesn't go according to plan, it doesn't change your belief, does it?
Oh, not one bit. You know, it's at the end of the day. The Tour de France isn't the only bike race in the world. The Olympics isn't the only bike race in the world. I think a lot of I know British fans think that's the case, you know, and they don't appreciate how much I've done in other races, you know. So at least I can show you that I am the fastest guy in the world. And thank you.
Suddenly, Mark Cavendish had become one of those people whose mobile number is gold dust and whose time is no longer his own.
Go on. Mum, I'll call you back. I'm on the telly.
Sorry, Mrs. C, but I hope you enjoyed the coverage, and I'm sure he called you back. Dinner at the Team Columbia Hotel came with a glass of red, champagne's reserved for the yellow jersey apparently, and the feeling that the wine waiter might be needed again before the tour was over. With just 5 stages and 831 kilometres raced, the tour hit the mountains of the Massif Central. Stage 6 was 195.5 kilometres from Aigueronde to Superbès. There were 4 climbs, including the one up to the finish at just under 1,300 metres. with a steep kick towards the end that looked the perfect launch pad for a late attack. Cadel Evans got in an early attack. No actual bodily harm, I don't think, but he certainly made his point to the motorbike policeman he thought was slowing down the team car as he was paced back into the race after a mechanical problem. Alejandro Valverde was likely gauze down the right side after his crash the previous day, but felt good enough to have his team on the front on the run into Superbès.
The Case Depon riders are running out of pacemakers here. Sooner or later, I think somebody's going to go.
Yeah, well, I tell you what, they might be running out of pacemakers, but there are the guys this afternoon, Phil, have done the job for Alejandro Valverde. They're pulling off now, and now we're going to see who is the one who's got the acceleration. Menchov was on the left-hand side, Cadel Evans on the right-hand side, and this is the difficulty at the back. And there is Damiano Cunego not enjoying this last 1.5 kilometres.
No, he's not, and I'm surprised to see that, but Cunego, who we thought had good form, is shaking his head a little bit there. These riders under extreme pressure here now as the big men of the Tour de France suddenly have lifted the tempo. Look at the gaps that have been forced open here now, and Kim Kirken is still up here. The yellow jerseys here, Menchov, Evans, Ricardo Rico, Valverde, all of these riders going shoulder to shoulder to the summit.
The only man who's got a teammate left in there to give him any hand at all is Alejandro Valverde, and his teammate has come straight back up to the front. That's Oscar Pereiro on the front now, trying to set the sprint up here for Alejandro Valverde. Moving up, look at the man on the right-hand side in the yellow jersey, the white and yellow jersey. That is Ricardo Rico. He's waiting to pounce. His nickname, by the way, is the Cobra.
And the man we haven't mentioned, Frank Schleck, the champion of Luxembourg, is here as well. This is it. And now Pereiro, who was given the Tour de France after Landis was disqualified, and there's a crash here. Schumacher's touched the wheel. The yellow jersey is in trouble, and as they sprint for the summit of the Rill here, Ricardo Rico is going for it, and there will be time lost, I think, for the yellow jersey. Depends how the judges read the last kilometre rule. But look at this. The man called the Cobra is striking again, as he did in the early days of the Giro d'Italia. He gets the stage when Valverde is second, but locked right on his wheel, Cadel Evans, Frank Schleck, and then comes Kirken, and then comes one of the riders there, I think it's yes, Roman Kreuziger of Liquigas comes over.
Well, I have a funny feeling, Phil, we may well see that they will not apply the kilometre rule on a climb like this, because this is a mountain-top finish, and we're going to get a change in the overall classification.
Well, I really think they will split time the riders. Now, look in the distance there. There is the yellow jersey coming up towards the line of Schumacher. I make him down by 32 seconds, so he's definitely lost that lead, his yellow jersey. Not a very nice way to lose it, but, you know, the best place of the front runners, Kim Kirken, I think he'll be the next leader. Now let's have a look now at the slow motion of the accident here. Really unfortunate, but as you can see here, there's a move, and it looks to me as though Kim Kirken is the rider that Stefan Schumacher has hit his back wheel. It looked as though Kirken moved across to his right, up the inside of Frank Schleck, but it was Kirken's wheel. Now, how ironic is that going to be? Because Kirken, I think, will be in yellow.
Well, Gerolsteiner thought they'd send a slightly sheepish-looking Stefan Schumacher in the direction of the podium just on the off chance, but there's no help in the regulations for a rider who crashes inside the final 3 kilometres of an uphill finish. So Kim Kirken became the 4th yellow jersey of the race, and Cadel Evans moved up into 2nd place, 6 seconds behind him, with Stefan Schumacher down to 3rd, ahead of Christian van der Velde, David Miller, Thomas Lundqvist, Dennis Menchov and Alejandro Valverde. Stage 7 bookended the opening week with wins for Case d'Epargne. Alejandro Valverde's teammate Luis Leon Sanchez made an impressive breakaway from a breakaway to cross the line alone at Aurillac. What none of us knew then, though, was that a small incendiary device that had been placed under the Tourbach on stage 1 was about to go off. This is Manuel Beltran being escorted to doping control on opening day back in Plumelec. And here he is being arrested by the French police after his positive result for EPO was released on the evening of stage 7. He was out of the race, out of a job and in custody. His team Liquigas, to the surprise of many people, was still in the race. A bad end to a good opening week. Stage 8 took the race another 172 kilometres further south from Figeac to Toulouse. Some climbing along the way, but nothing really to get in the way of a bunch sprint, except miserable weather and the daily breakaway, that is. For once, though, the break was swept up in good time and the main field was all together and winding up for a big finish in Toulouse.
The little flick there, I've had mine, says Bernard Eisel. He's gone now as they start to slip down. I think it's Cholik got the head of affairs now, ahead of Lundqvist. The yellow jersey of Kim Kirken, who also leads the green on points, is locked in there as well. This is going to be, it could be that Kirken in yellow will lead Cavendish to the final sprint line.
Well, I tell you what, Erik Zabel is not too far away. He's got himself now to the back wheel of George Hincapie. Behind him there you can see Kirken. Behind Kirken is Mark Cavendish. In fact, it's Cholik is behind him, and there is Cavendish just in third position behind the yellow jersey, looking for the good lead out from his man. There you can see Cavendish just popping out. On his wheel is Gerrit Steegmans. The sprinters are all queuing up now behind Team Columbia.
The face of George Hincapie just peeping into our picture here, but it's the rider just behind and not far away from Robbie Hunter of South Africa. Mark Cavendish is there. There's a push on the outside, though. All of the sprinters, for the first time, I think, really fancy their chances today as they race into Toulouse. Look how they're fanning now as they all try to find their own way at 2 kilometres off the front, and Team Columbia now are having to shed some men.
Well, Robbie McEwen zigzagging in the middle, waiting to see which side the door is going to open. There's a line of white-clad riders over on the right-hand side there. Those were the guys from Quick Step. They'll be looking after their man, Gerrit Steegmans. I haven't seen anything of Thor Hushoff for the moment. I'm sure he's absolutely there. It's in fact Quick Step now have taken up the pacemaking on the front. Third in the line there is big Gerrit Steegmans, normally known as a lead-out man for Tom Boonen, but he knows how to win stages of the Tour de France himself. High road now, Phil, have lost a little bit of control at the front end of the main field, and that makes it precarious.
Well, that means now that Mark Cavendish may have to switch teams here and start following the riders from Belgium in the Quick Step colours of white and blue. Robert Foster is forced into the way too with Team Gerolsteiner. They are the lighter blue colours. It may be all going a little bit pear-shaped for Cavendish at this moment. He's going to have... Now watch this bend. This is the one where it could all go wrong as they gently make the corner. The middle of the bunch has had to slow right down here now, which means it's only the riders in the first 30 now who have any hope at all.
Still in control, Quick Step not too far away. Peeking round every now and again is Mark Cavendish, Oscar Freire, Erik Zabel. They're all there. Robbie Hunter in the red as well.
Well, there's Cavendish in the light blue. He's a little bit far back, but he does have a terrific finish if he gets a good view of that finish. And as they try to lead Steegmans to the line here now, Freire is third wheel. Cavendish is sixth place at the moment, but this man does pack an incredible finish. Cavendish needs to break now as Steegmans gets the perfect lead out. Freire is looking hot. Robbie Hunter coming in the red. Steegmans goes now. Here comes Mark Cavendish. He swings to the left. He kicks. Mark Cavendish so quick over this last distance. As Cavendish races towards the line, he gets it. That is unbelievable. He has got his second win of the Tour de France to equal the two he got in the Giro d'Italia.
Yeah, it was brilliant, you know. Once again, you got to see how well my team worked, you know. They controlled the race all day. There was a breakaway, and then, yeah, we got help from the other sprint teams this time at the finish, and it came down perfect time to catch the break, and we caught them and finished off with a 1-2, so we can't get any better than that.
No hands to the helmet in disbelief this time. Cavendish had established he was the fastest in Châteauroux. Toulouse was confirmation, although no less cause for celebration. The first British rider to bag 2 stages in a single tour since he was minus 12 years old. It was clear that as long as his team got him anywhere near the finish, no one could beat him. The only problem for Cavendish was that the next sprinter stage was on the other side of the Pyrenees, and the Pyrenees are on the other side of this break. If the Stage 4 time trial had been the first face-off for overall victory, the Pyrenees were the next. Stage 9 was 224 kilometres from Toulouse to Bagnères de Bigorre. It was the second longest stage of the entire race, and certainly the longest in the mountains. 7 climbs, including 2 of the Tour's most famous and most visited. It was the 60th ascent of the Col de Peyresourde and the 68th of the Col d'Aspin. The finish, though, was downhill. The big news of the day wasn't on the big climbs, though. It was the sight of Cadel Evans swapping to a spare bike after a crash that no one had seen, but the aftermath of which was unmissable. A ripped jersey, a grazed hip, and cuts to his knee and elbow on his left side. A silenced Lotto escort was quickly assembled, but not long after they paced him back to the main field, he dropped back again to consult the race doctor. Evans eventually got home safely, though, as did the race leader Kim Kirken. But as in Superbest, one man got away from the field. Ricardo Riccò picked up his second stage win. At the finish, Cadel Evans was in no mood to speak about his accident. but strangely sent his helmet out to tell the story to waiting journalists.
As Cadel came into the car, the doors were closed straight away, but then he knocked on the window, and then the door opened and he passed me the helmet here and said, "There's your interview," closed the door again. And I think his helmet was obviously pretty explanatory as to what he's feeling and what's happening now. Yeah, I got a good look on his left side as he went in. His elbow is fairly badly cut up and you can already see the swelling there and the blood coming out. I'm assuming he's being whisked off to be checked right now from the team doctor.
Not much change at the top though. Kim Kierken still the race leader by 6 seconds from Cadel Evans, although whether it was the same Cadel Evans who'd started the day we weren't sure. Christian van der Velde had moved past Stefan Schumacher into third. Dennis Menchov and Alejandro Valverde stayed 5th and 6th, while Stein de Volder and Oscar Pereiro moved up a place as David Miller dropped out of the top 8. The CSC trio also moved up en masse, 10th, 11th and 12th for Carlos Sastre and the Schlecks. Ricardo Rico, though, was the big gainer. He was in 21st, his deficit down from nearly 4 minutes to 2:35. Next up was the Tour's big altitude finish. If Cadel Evans wouldn't tell us how badly he'd been hurt, then a day's climbing over the Tourmalet and up to the ski station of Otakam would. CSC spent most of the stage pounding away at the front with Fabian Cancellara and Jens Voigt, setting up an attack on the final climb by one of their trio of climbers, Carlos Sastre and the Schlecks. Evans was pretty much on his own. It was just a question of which of the CSC riders was going to challenge him.
And here comes Frank Schleck launching it, the man that won on Alpe d'Huez in 2005, I think it was, as he breaks clear of the field. And now the reaction coming from Leonardo Pipoli. Kobo goes back, leaving his teammate to handle Schleck.
Well, Pipoli's come across the gap there. Frank Schleck started the day in 11th place overall. He was looking for 1 minute and 56 seconds, and this may well put a little bit of pressure on everybody else to try and chase him down. Schleck, let's not forget, was the winner of the Alpe d'Huez stage of the Tour de France a couple of years ago, and now he's putting pressure on everyone.
Pretty soon, Frank Schleck had company. Two of Ricardo Rico's Saunier Duval teammates, Juan Jose Cobo and Leonardo Piepoli. Chasing was a select group containing Cadel Evans and Dennis Menchov. Too select for Kim Kierken, who was slipping back and out of the race lead. Towards the top of the climb, Kobo and Piepoli set off for the glory of a stage win, but Frank Schleck was riding for the yellow jersey.
As they start for the finishing line, this is going to be a 1-2 for Saunier Duval Scott. The question is, what is the order? The younger right, 140 is the gap. It could be Cadel Evans is looking good, but as these two race for the line, it is still which one is going to win.
Look at Pipoli's face here. He's been here many, many times before. Juan Jose Cobo is just happy to be in the company of this little Italian climber. They're making the final swing. 100 meters to go. Who's it going to be?
Well, Pipoli wants it. Kobo wants it. Are they going to have a free-for-all sprint? Sometimes the management says you fight it out yourself and whoever wins, wins. But there we are. He's as happy as Pipoli. Leonardo Pipoli wins a terrific stage of the Tour de France, and Juan Jose Cobo of Spain salutes his people in second place. The clock will start, though, when this man hits the line. Who will be the yellow jersey, Frank Schleck or Cadel Evans?
Well, what's important now is to watch the time when Frank Schleck stops the clock, because it doesn't matter how far behind those two guys who finished first and second are. It's whether or not he's more than 1 minute and 50 seconds ahead of Cadel Evans. And I got that at 25 or 26 seconds.
Well, now this is Bernard Cole coming up. He's been threatening to do a great ride ever since he ran over the team leader, Schleck, I can't think of his name anymore.
Bernard Cole.
Schumacher, down when he ran over him in the crash at Superbest. We're watching the clock now to see. He's got to finish 1:51 ahead of Cadel, right?
I didn't get the exact time that Frank Schleck crossed the line. It was either 25 or 26. Well, we're looking at 2:16, 2:17 is the time that Cadel Evans has to finish inside of if he wants to get himself the yellow jersey at the end of the stage. It's a long climb up there. You can see the clock telling us at around about 1 minute and 13 on the finishing line. And you can see Van der Velde has come to the front. He's trying to lift the pace a fraction now as he gets towards the line. The magic number, and I've only got it 2 seconds either way because we kind of missed the crossing of the line of Frank Schleck. It's between 2:15 and 2:17, but it's going to be very, very close at 400 meters to go.
Now, can just on this last 350 metres. Can Christian van der Velde even steal a couple of seconds for himself? He could be second or third overall still. Cadel Evans is chasing him down. We're looking at 2:16. If it's outside that, then Evans has lost the yellow to Frank Schleck. It is going to be close, and I think it's going to be very close. And here comes Rico. Rico finishing it off for Sony Duval Scott as well. 2:03 there for Efekim on the line, so he will be in 5th place on the day. Well, now, what is happening? It's going to be, I think, Schleck who will be the leader, but I don't know. Oh, goodness, it's 2:16. We'll leave it to the timekeepers. It's close.
In fact, short of a tie, it couldn't have been closer. Frank Schleck had started the day a minute 50 behind Cadel Evans, and he'd beaten him by a minute 49. His heroic ride up to Otakam had come up 1 second short of taking the yellow jersey.
1 second. It's just one ridiculous second. Should have done a sprint, but yeah, I should have done this, I should have done this, and in the end I'm just disappointed that having the yellow jersey is something big, and getting it in the mountains even better, and I guess that's life.
Cadel Evans was as moved as Schleck was demoralised. The first Australian to stand on the podium in Paris in 2007, he was beginning to look like the first to make it to the top step.
Oh, I was close to tears lying in the curb yesterday with blood all over me as well. It's a bit of a turnaround of form, that's for sure, but let's see, it's a long way to go yet.
It had been a touching moment for Evans, but he was still injured, don't forget, and touching otherwise was discouraged.
Tomorrow you have a rest day and then you plan your tactic.
Life on the tour resumed after the rest day with great scenery and bad news, or good news I suppose, depending on your perspective. Barlow World's Moises Dueñas became the second rider to be kicked off the race after testing positive for EPO. Like Manuel Beltran, he was arrested by the gendarmes and taken away for questioning. And like Beltran, he was a bit part player, not a star. But Ricardo Rico was 24, second in the Giro d'Italia and winner of 2 of the first 11 stages. Word of his positive test came through at the stage start in La Balané. The self-proclaimed Cobra left the team bus in the race to an instant verdict from the fans. And despite lining up at the stage start to begin with, the rest of his Saunier Duval team followed. The next day, Saunier Duval sacked not only Rico, but Leonardo Piepoli, who'd won the stage to Otakam, citing nothing more specific than a breach of the team's code of ethics. How you viewed the positive test depended on whether you saw the syringe as half full or half empty. The organisers chose to frame it all in terms of progress.
Elle a été mise en examen par le procureur. Donc, c'est une situation, je crois qu'on peut aujourd'hui saluer. Pourquoi? Parce que ça prouve que dans ce pays, dans notre pays aujourd'hui, eh bien, l'ensemble des acteurs montrent, prouvent qu'ils veulent lutter efficacement contre le dopage. Et cette lutte, elle ne peut pas se faire, convenez-en, sans un certain nombre d'accros. Vous ne pouvez pas imaginer que d'un coup de baguette magique, tout d'un coup, on va transformer le monde du sport et le monde du cyclisme. Ça prendra du temps. Mais je pense que ce qui se passe cette année montre qu'on se rapproche de plus en plus d'une situation acceptable.
So that was the story of stages 11 and 12 from the perspective of the fight against doping, but there was racing as well, and having survived the Pyrenees just, Mark Cavendish was back in the hunt on stage 12 as the bunch wound up for a sprint finish in Narbonne.
Have 4.3 kilometres to go. Mark Cavendish looking to do the impossible. No British cyclist has ever won 3 stages in the same Tour de France.
And what group of men has he got in front of him? This is big. Adam Hansen now making the turn, but they are now being challenged in their organisation by Team Liquigas. You dare not relinquish control at speeds like this, because if you do, it becomes very chaotic in the sprint behind. Adam Hansen says, OK, well, you carry on for a bit, but I'll take over later on.
So Liquigas trying for possibly Kiki there, but Adam Hansen is trying to keep the line going. He's the big lead-out man, the big power man, who can hold high speed for a long time. He'll peel off about 2 kilometres out.
Over on the left-hand side, you can see 2 riders in the pale blue together. That's Gerard Cholik and, of course, Mark Cavendish. This is the roundabout at 3.5 kilometres to go. It's a long, straight line now, Phil, for 2 kilometres. Then you've got that right-hand bend, and you line up for a 1 kilometre straight dash at the finish line.
got Lancaster on the front now for Team Milram as he tries to pave the way. Another Australian in the race, of course, as we go under 3 kilometres to go now. Erik Zabel trying to get a signature win here as we race towards Narbonne, and that we are absolutely flying. This is Lancaster driving on.
Straight out into a big long line. Robbie Hunter in the red and yellow there of Barlow World. He wants to try and get himself a victory to bring the team a little bit of good luck and good morale this afternoon after all the bad luck they've had over the last couple of days. Now a slowing down moment. This is when you have to take control again. Look at the control on the left-hand side. Team Columbia now lining up 1, 2, 3, 4 men. The 4th man will be Mark Cavendish. Excuse me, Mr. Hunter, I'm coming in here because this is my lead-out line.
The right-hand side is the blue jersey of Team Columbia. The green jersey are trying to lead out Thor Hushoff. On the far left-hand side, Gerolsteiner trying to bring up Robert Forster here. And also in the mix there is Pozzato. And in fact, Casper's getting in the middle as well. All the sprinters are trying to come through. This is Robbie Hunter dodging on the right-hand side in red.
Big George Hincapie now takes over the pacemaking at 2 kilometres to go. Marcus Burkhardt slips back in there. He knows they're a long way out from the finish line. They're waiting to see. Look at the outside there. That Mark Cavendish has slipped back an awful long way, and he's going to get moved up on the right-hand side by his teammate. That is Gerard Cholek.
Well, just looking now, they've got the train going, and it's a well-organised train here. Hunter's trying to hitch up to the back of it here. Cavendish is over to the left of our picture. In fact, his teammates were looking now. This is a move they don't want to see. At 1.5 kilometres to go, there is a counter move on the far side. It's Milram.
Milram in control now. They'll be looking after their man, and their man is going to be Erik Zabel here this afternoon. I have a funny feeling I can see that's Julian Dean in 4th position. The Kiwi national champion is looking for a victory here this afternoon for Garmin Chipotle, but right behind him, queuing up the big men from Quick-Step. They've done this so many times before for Tom Boonen. Today they're going to try and do it for Hed Stegemans, and right in the middle of the mix there is Robbie McEwen.
But this is the right-hand turn, a wide sweep by some of the riders there. They've managed to correct it. Cadel Evans lost a lot of places, but he's safe in the peloton here now as the acceleration comes from the front. And again, it is a perfect lead out here for possibly Thor Hushoff and certainly Oscar Freire. He's in the lighter green jersey. Gert Stegmans is trying to make a move, and they are making that run on the left-hand side of the road.
It's such a long way to go. You dare not misjudge this. Now, all of a sudden, Thor Hushoff has jumped ship. He's left his teammate and lead-out man behind him. He's still got their Mark Renshaw, but it's Team Quick-Step in the front, up into about 3rd or 4th position is the young man from the Isle of Man, Mark Cavendish, but on his shoulder is Hushoff. On his wheel is Oscar Freire.
And just behind him is Jimmy Casper here now. Now goes Cavendish, goes from the centre. This is a perfect lead-out, and this is how he goes, and beat that. He is the fastest man in the world right now, Mark Cavendish. There's nobody even comparing. Mark Cavendish becomes the first British cyclist to ever win 3 stages in a Tour de France. He's done it for the American team Columbia, and they wanted him to give up and go to the Olympic Games. Not chance, no chance.
No chance at all. There's a lot of pressure on this young man from the United Kingdom to leave the Tour de France behind and go and concentrate on the Olympic Games. But this man, Phil, is on the top of his game at the Tour de France. 3 is what he's trying to tell us. 3 stage victories in a single Tour de France ahead of Erik Zabel and Oscar Freire and Thor Hushoff. This was a great performance. The team did a great job for him. But just have a look at it one more time. You can see the acceleration there coming forward of Sebastian Chavanel. And then all of a sudden, the man from the Isle of Man, he feels the instinct to go. He can feel the challenge over on the right-hand side. But once he sees the door opening right in front of him, he kicks. The turbo whistles, and all of a sudden, he can see the finishing line. He looks under his shoulder. Any shadows? No shadows. I've got this one in the bag. Win number 3.
Mark, when's it going to sink in? You've created a real bit of cycling history in Britain there. 3 wins on the Tour. No one has done that before.
Yeah, well, I knew I could do it. I knew with the team I had, I could do it, you know. And for sure, that was the hardest of my wins. But it's still first across the line, so I'm very happy.
Your team have told me today that you said over radio early on that you knew you were going to win again today, and you actually told them over radio. Is that true?
Yeah, I made another joke. I said, let's play a little game today. Who's got the predictions for the day? And then, yeah, you know, so I didn't put money on myself this time, but, you know, we still paid off and we still won, so.
And so, in the sunshine here at Narbonne, Mark Cavendish has now achieved something no other rider from the United Kingdom has ever done. He has now won 3 stages of the Tour de France in the same year. and he did it with an incredible sprint finish. He clearly is now the fastest cyclist in the world over that last 200 metres. Well, his next target, I suppose, is Barry Hoban now, because Barry won 8 stages of the Tour de France, and there's nobody in between 3 and 8.
So an historic 3-stage wins for Mark Cavendish, and 2 more chances left in the race to make it 4. The final day on the Champs-Élysées, and the next day in Nîmes.
At 3 kilometres to go, the sprinters will have their day in the Tour de France. They've wiped out the attack by Sylvain Chavanel at the 3 kilometre point. This is the tail of the peloton. And you know what, Paul? There are 4 teams organised up there today.
Everybody wants a crack because they know this is quite possibly one of the last days for the sprinters. I can't believe that Mark Cavendish is so close to the front at this point, but another team takes over the pacemaking. This is Matteo Tossato coming forward now for Team Quick-Step. Not too far behind in the line there will be big Gert Stegemans. Everyone looking over the shoulders. Marcus Burkhardt over on the right-hand side. Adam Hansen, the big Australian from Queensland, in second position. He's waiting for the moment for George Hincapie to say, go on, lift it, let's stretch this peloton out into a long line.
What they're trying to do now is just hold control at the front here, get their blue line in order. It's being messed up a bit here by the charge of Robert Foster's Gerolsteiner team coming through. Now it's Kiki's Liquigas riders who are coming through. At 2 kilometres to go, it really is anybody's race, this.
Well, moving up there, the red jerseys, Robbie Hunter. Right on his wheel is Julian Dean, but now it's Team Liquigas have got the control at the front end of the main field. I saw 1 or 2 riders from Colombia looking across to Mark Cavendish to say, how are you feeling today, mate? Do we need to make a second effort? There now, it's Gerolsteiner. This is Fabian Wegmann, champion of Germany, all over the front end of the main field. The next banner these riders will be looking for, Phil, will be the banner that indicates 1 kilometre left to go to the finish.
Well, they're not far away from that now. The grimace of the riders from Liquigas here as Francesco Chicchi is in there. And there's a run coming on the right, and that's surely to bring Thor Hushovd into the race now. The one man we're looking for, and he's there on Hushovd's wheel, is the lighter green jersey of Oscar Freire as they head towards 1 kilometre to go.
Well, round the corner, still Liquigas very much in control of the front end of this peloton. Moving up the outside now, it's the riders from Quick-Step. 1,000 metres left now as they look over the shoulder. Lead-out man sits up. That's always very dangerous because he goes from 60 kilometres an hour down to 40 and slips straight the way back down through the pack. Now it's Team Milram in control. Eric Zabel is right up there in 3rd position. Cavendish is not far away either. He's got the wheel of Julian Dean, who's up into 6th.
Huge lead out by Brett Lancaster of Milram. He swings off now. The final lead out will come for Eric Zabel. He'll never get another chance better than this. He's right at the front as he's challenged now. Kiki is trying to come through from 5th wheel as they cross swords. Julian Dean is locked in there in 3rd place. He's on form, dodging and out of our sight because he's so small. It's Mark Cavendish, and he's boxed in. Mark Cavendish is going to have to come with Oscar Freire from the centre of the pack. Watch him move to the left. Now he comes. He makes the space. Cavendish goes. The rocket has been launched. Mark Cavendish being challenged by Robbie McEwen, but this is the new Robbie McEwen, and no one can match Mark Cavendish. It's a long way to the line. Make it number 4. He is totally untouchable. Congratulations to him from Jimmy Casper. He just forced open the gap, Paul, and then he was through.
Phil, at 200 metres to go, he was boxed in. He was closed out. I said, this time, my young man, you have completely blown it. But all of a sudden, the door opened up in front of him, and once he saw that door was wide open like a barn gate, he went straight through the middle of it. He has got an incredible turn of speed, this young man, over the last 50 to 100 metres.
And you're absolutely right. Mark Cavendish gets his 4th stage win, and that, believe it or not, is unprecedented in British cycling history.
The measure of Mark Cavendish's superiority was that he was starting to make excellence look routine. In fact, the finish line scenes had become so familiar in the space of 10 days that we might have been watching them for years. The hugs for his teammates, the kisses for the podium girls, the Ned Boulting interview.
Mark, 4, I mean 3 was good, 4's ridiculous, and it was actually comfortable by, oh, I'm sure it wasn't comfortable for you, but you look at the replay, you beat them by a lot today.
You know, I had to give it a final push, you know. I had to go full gas because when I did the initial kick, I realised there was a headwind at the finish, and I thought, you know, I'm going to have to get a further advantage, you know, by another kick. So I put another kick in my sprint with 100 to go so I could get a further advantage in case I died before the line, but I didn't quite die and I was able to hold off, so good.
The next day, fatigue and a sharp climb towards the finish scuppered any ideas of a hat-trick for Mark Cavendish. Oscar Freire, the green jersey leader, finally got his hands in the air. The day after that, Cav left the race to save his increasingly valuable legs for the Olympics. Smart lad. Otherwise, he'd have had to climb the Alps, and that's where this race was heading next.